but there's a difference between training hard and being obsessed,
Right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of Off the Mat. My name is Josh Dumoulin, and this is...
Nicole Stratichuk.
So I was kind of thinking about what we were going to talk about today, and I was thinking about kind of a story that happened when I was younger, when I was like 18 or 19. Probably about 19 years old. And I was just thinking about like what it was, you know, like how I started teaching, all of these things. And I was trying to think, what should we talk about? And I was reminded of this story that I had. And there was this one time I took a trip from Prince George, where I lived, where I had my school, to Edmonton. And I would drive there to train with other instructors, other people, and just to learn more, you know, things that I could teach, but also just trying to like get, you know, learn how to teach better, right? Learn other drills and learn how other people do things. So there was one particular trip where I had actually gone to Edmonton. I drove all the way there. And I think on the last day I was there, I actually slept at the person's school right in their dojang on the couch because I was young and I was broke and I didn't have any money at all and I couldn't afford a hotel. So I got there and asked if I could sleep in his dojang. And he was like, yeah, I guess so. So for 3 days, I slept in the dojang on a couch in the lobby. And the last night I was there, my car got broken into. How did they get in? They jimmied the door, broke the lock, and then they tried stealing the vehicle. So they actually broke where the ignition is.
Okay.
They smashed that open. They tried to steal it. They couldn't get it working. They took off.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So I had to actually have a mechanic come by. And he goes, listen, we can't get you in for a while. I had to get back home. I had a school to go back and teach at. And I had to actually have him hotwire my own vehicle so I could drive it back home to Prince George so I could make it back in time until I could get a mechanic to go ahead and actually fix my vehicle.
So you hotwired your own car.
I had to hotwire my own car. And I
Cool.
was so worried about like, this is totally dangerous, but I actually, well, at least they tell us it's dangerous. I don't know if it is, but I had to fill up once on the way home. So I stopped in Jasper to fill up. I didn't know how to start my own vehicle back up. So I left it running because I had pliers and I had things all hooked up to wires and cables all underneath on my lap as I was driving home. So that's how I had to drive home. And so it just got me thinking about that story got me thinking about what it took for me to become the instructor I am today. And that one thing that I think any athlete, any person who operates a business, any instructor or coach or leader, like anybody who wants to be the best in their field, I really feel like they need this, and that's obsession. I was obsessed with becoming the best instructor I could, that every chance I would get, I would call up an instructor, if they lived in Edmonton, Kelowna, Quesnel, like whoever I could go and just observe and train in their class to see how they taught. I was obsessed with just being the best instructor, how to talk to kids, how to talk to teens, how to talk to adults, how to run a good class, what involved being a good communicator when it came to delivering the message I was going to deliver about a lesson plan. I was completely obsessed. And I think if you want to be really, like I said, any success in any field that you're in, like I said, as an athlete, you need to be obsessed about being the number one athlete out there. It is the only thing that you can think about and do. If you want to be, you know, a coach, a instructor, a mentor of some kind, you need to be obsessed. Are you sitting off to the side, or are you on the floor, like getting involved at every chance you can get? Do you want to be a athlete? Do you want to go to world championships? but you know, my classes are, you know, Monday, Wednesday, so I'm going to go on those ones. I'm going to take Tuesday, Thursday, Friday off. Or are you like, okay, well, you know what? I don't have classes this night, but what am I doing? I'm at the gym. Like I'm working out, I'm running, like I'm doing something, I'm training, I'm getting together with other people so we can train. And it's the obsession that people have that you see from all of the people who are number one in whatever field they are in. It's obsession.
And when you have that obsession, you're just more committed
Mm-hmm.
to whatever it takes to reach that objective, right?
Absolutely. Well, and even just think about it. So you just got back from the Team Canada selection camp
I did, yeah.
for the World Championships happening later on this year, so that you guys were all selecting the athletes. And you were probably able to look at the room. How many athletes roughly?
There was between 50 and 60 athletes there trying out.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if you actually like stopped and just looked, you were probably able to tell a big difference between the people who were obsessed,
That's right.
who nonstop thought about kicking and punching and being the number one person, and the person who was just there for the frickin' gram to take a selfie with everybody else because, oh, look at me, I made it. There was 2 people in my division at nationals and I got my spot. Like you could probably really tell the difference,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Not just in how they perform, like how they train, but also just like how they walk around, their demeanor, their attitude, like everything, right? There is a difference between people who are obsessed in that field and the people who are, like I said, there for the selfies.
That's right. Yeah. So, like I said, there was just shy of 60 athletes there trying out for Team Canada. And, you know, in the end, I think 40 athletes actually made the team. So, I mean, even of those 20 that got cut, there was some athletes of those 20 that were absolutely obsessed. So it's cool to see that, because if they can continue that obsession, they are going to make Team Canada, because they will figure out the way to get on the team, right? So if they can continue that, of those 20 athletes that didn't make it, there is definitely, you can see a good chunk of them are not obsessed, right? They, you know, it was a cool thing for them to come to selection camp. They, of course, they enjoyed it. It's really fun and like hard training, right? So, but they're not obsessed. It's just, it shows in the way, like you said, the way that they carry themselves, the way that they train, or that sort of thing. And then of the athletes that were on team, that are now Team Canada, there are definitely athletes that you can see are obsessed, right? And then there's these athletes that, even that are on Team Canada, they're not obsessed, right? They earned a spot. They definitely train hard, but there's a difference between training hard and being obsessed, right? Obsessed is like you are going for perfection and there's no excuses on your way there.
Well, that's just it. You literally eat, sleep, breathe, whatever it is you're doing. In this case, we're talking about, you know, being a top level athlete in the world championships, right? Like in the world, you're wanting to rank up there with the best. And there is a difference between, yes, having some talent and training hard. Because again, like you said, there are a ton of people. They train very, very hard.
Yes.
But then there's the people who take it to another level.
Yeah.
They are on their phone watching fights. They are watching people do patterns. They are, all they talk about, all they think about, all they do is train.
They eat, sleep, and breathe
Right.
training, right? So yeah, like you can totally tell those athletes from the ones that, you know, maybe just have some natural talent, and they do train hard. I'm not taking that away, but there is a separation between naturally talented, hardworking athletes to the ones that are obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you have a little bit of experience, and I was really thinking about you when I was trying to think about this episode too. I think back to you when you were doing training for World Championships in 2000.
Yes.
You like 2000 and 2002, right? Those are the 2 years.
Yeah.
So the first year, that you went, would you say you were, now again, we're talking, you were a little bit younger too, so there's
Yes.
like some maturity there, but would you say the first year you had the obsession?
No.
Right.
I went to that first World Championships in 2000 and realized it was a huge eye opener for me. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I trained extremely hard
Right.
for that World Championships. Yeah, absolutely I did. But I did not have the obsession. But when I went to that first World Championships in 2000, I just watched everything and I watched the level of the athletes. And I, at that World Championships, I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I am going to come back and win. And so that's when my obsession started, was at that first World Championships, because I realized I was missing something, right? And so from then on, I was obsessed, like just obsessed with everything to do with patterns and sparring, especially patterns, because I just wanted to know exactly and precisely where my hands needed to be, where my feet needed to be, where my hips needed to be, like every little detail you can think about when it comes to patterns. I was obsessed about, and I was obsessed about training to be the best that I could for the next one.
That's right. And so when you would ask and go to other, instructors, and you'd be like, what is this? What exactly is it? Then you would take the actions because of the obsession. You took the actions to be like, okay, you want my hands where? Got it. Done. Check.
And
in there.
I was really, I mean, YouTube, I don't know if that was really a thing. I wasn't really watching that, but I was watching, especially at that first World Championships, like I watched absolutely everything. Like, all those details, like how you were saying, like being obsessed watching on their phone fights and stuff like that. Like that was me, but just in real life, because I didn't have YouTube yet. But
that's funny. Like we're just old enough. Like we're old enough that like we have that like period where, oh yeah, we didn't have YouTube to like really watch certain things.
Yeah.
And then like we did, and all of a sudden it was like,
yeah,
cat videos and other kinds of bullshit like that.
Anyway, but yeah, I was watching it in real life happening, and I was like, I just remember watching everything and thinking, okay, like I need to pick up on every single detail here so that I can come back and be number one. So
yeah, and then so over that 2-year period, right? Like this is the thing. This is again another thing that drives me insane about a lot of people is like they're obsessed for a week.
yeah.
And they think, well, shit, I didn't make it. I didn't get this. I didn't improve. Well, what did you expect? Like what the hell did you actually expect? In a week's time, you showed an ounce of obsession and you expected all of this stuff to change and miraculously go. Come on. You spent 2 years obsessing every single day, going like, how do I want my hands? Where do I need this? Where do I put that? How do I do this? Where do I go here? How long is my stance? How wide is, like all of these things day in and day out for years to then go to your next World Championships and then get gold.
Yes.
Like that's the problem with a lot of people is they're like, oh, I am obsessed. I'm obsessed. I'm going to be an awesome instructor. I'm going to be the best. And then they show up and they do like 1 week of training and they're already like, wow, that's a lot of work. You're not obsessed. You are not obsessed. You're not.
No.
And then you'll sit there and then play some sort of, like pity party, woe is me, victimhood when you're like, no, you weren't obsessed.
Yeah.
And obsession is like it consumes you.
Yes. And so like when you say you're obsessed and you're doing 3 classes a week, that's not obsessed.
No.
That's a solid training, 3 times a week. That's good. If you're looking to be great and be the best, 3 days a week is not going to cut it. Like you really do need to get obsessed if you want to be at that elite level. And it's okay if you don't want to be, right? Like that's okay.
Exactly. That's the big thing is we're trying to say like there's levels of everything. Maybe you enjoy training, but you're obsessed about something else. That's fine.
Yeah.
But like that's just it.
You don't have to be obsessed with being number 1 at World Championships. Like that doesn't have to be your goal. And if it's not, that's okay. But if your goal is to be number one at world championships, there has to be obsession.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes with sacrifice. We were talking about that before is, when you have obsession over this or over anything for that matter, but let's just use the world championships at, Taekwondo as an example. If you want to be number one in the world, that is going to take obsession, and that means sacrifice. That means sacrifice of your time, your resources. I look back.
Your family's time, your friends' time.
That's right. And I was just going to say that is like what I look back, I was in high school, like I gave up other team sports to do Taekwondo.
Yeah.
I gave up going to parties and things like that.
Right.
Because I became obsessed with that's what I wanted to do, right? I mean, I didn't have to give up everything else in my life, but like there was a lot of concessions that I made,
of course,
to adhere to training and being obsessed with, being the best that I could be.
That's right. And that's just it. Like that's where people get like stuck is one, they put in that week of obsession. And then they realize, well, I had to give up something for that week. Boy, I didn't like that. That was painful.
Yeah.
Like the pain of like going through that has to be like you can't think about, well, what am I giving up? Well, I don't want to if you're not willing to give that up, that's fine. Yeah. But you can't sit there and then say it is this reason why I couldn't go there, or it's this person's fault while I'm not there. No, it's yours. Take some ownership, take some freaking accountability. Like, damn it. Like same thing. Like for me, it was being an instructor. I wanted to be the best instructor. Like nobody should be better than me. That was my attitude going like forward. When I finally flipped the switch, and I've talked about this in a previous podcast about how, I actually hated teaching, and then an interaction with a young man changed my whole outlook of teaching. And then from that point forward, I was obsessed with becoming the best instructor I could. How I talk to people, how I communicate, how I lead. And that took years of growth and pain and mistakes and sacrifice.
That's right. Yeah. So just like building a business, right? And we can talk about building our martial arts school, Champion Taekwondo. We've been, people have said, we're obsessed with that. And we absolutely were obsessed with making Champion Taekwondo the best martial arts school in the city, right? And that obsession came with sacrifice. So did that mean that our family spends a lot of time here? Absolutely it did. That was sacrifices that we discussed and talked about and we're okay with, right? Yep. So our family spends a lot of time at the Dojang. I don't think it's that bad of a place to hang out. So,
well, there's worse places.
Right. That's the thing.
Like, I'd rather have that than some of the other places Ryder could be at.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
Like, he gets to hang out here around a place that's constantly being, structured around discipline and focus, and with other kids who are on the same path, on the same journey.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But now the other thing with that, with sacrifice, is people.
Yeah, people are not going to understand or like what you're doing.
And the hardest part, I think, with that too, is it's the people closest to you.
Oh, yeah.
It's the people closest to you. Mm-hmm. Your family members.
Yeah, your friends.
Your friends who will, why are you training so much? How come you're spending so much time at the school there? That's not a great way for your kids to grow up. Like, how many times did we hear that from people?
Yeah, right? Like just all of our time is, at the Dojang, especially like building our school. Like there is a lot of time that went into that and a lot of sacrifice that went into that. And that sometimes means sacrificing not always being at every family event maybe, or, and just or talking about friends, like when you're obsessed with training and becoming a world champion, like you're going to maybe disappoint your friends because you're not going to go to all the parties. You're not going to do this and go to the movies and do that and everything else, right? Like you have to sacrifice some of that time in your pursuit to be great,
Yeah.
right? So your friends or family, yeah, they don't like that. And they don't like that because they don't understand, right? They don't share your vision with you, right? My vision was to be a world champion, or my vision was to have this great martial arts school. Well, when I have that vision, or we had this vision, the outside people don't have that same vision. They don't understand, right? So they can't understand why we're obsessed or making sacrifices for something that they just can't see,
That's right.
right?
And it's unfortunate, but it's the whole crabs in the bucket thing. Like, you're moving forward, you're improving, and whether that's as an entrepreneur, whether that's as an athlete, a coach, people want to pull you back because when you're going there, and sometimes their reason is like, well, if they get hurt, what if they get hurt
Yeah,
along the
sure.
way? What if they don't quite accomplish? What if they train for years and don't win the worlds? Like, like, this is the biggest thing. And it's like you could have trained for the 2 years and not won world championships. That
That's
very
right.
well could have happened.
Yep.
Very well could have happened. You could have trained for 2 years, lost first round, and been out. And it's hard. Is that hard? Sure as hell it is. But that's the problem, is people would rather you not go. Now, luckily, your family supported you. They were there, and your dad came to every practice and watched you and everything. So luckily then. But people would rather be like, well, I don't want them to train that much, because if they go and lose first round, they'll just have their little hearts broken.
Yeah.
What about the journey along the way?
Yeah. And that's so true.
What about the growth?
Because, I went to world championships as a teenager. And then, the next few years of my life was, I was training and doing that. I competed here and there. I was in university, right? So like that became more of my focus. And then, I got a little bit older, and Taekwondo was always in my life, but my focus and my obsession wasn't on competing. Then in 2016, we went to Budapest.
2016.
Yeah, so after having our first child in 2014, then I was able to be obsessed about competition again, right? And so I focused more on competition and was able to go and do that. And that was awesome. Like, being able to do that, but there's just certain times that were appropriate for me to be obsessed with competition.
Right.
So yeah, it's just finding the right time to put that effort and obsession into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just it. So like whatever you want to do, like wherever, become obsessed with it. Like I said, like I just wanted to be the best at that. And like I said, that took obsession from it. And it did. It took certain things. It took sacrificing my time, resources, and money to go to places to get better.
Right. And so, building our school, we made sacrifices and stuff to do that. We made sacrifices when we wanted to train, which was all kind of happening at the same time for us. So we made a lot of sacrifices when it was just me, you, and our first son, Ryder. So we made all kinds of sacrifices as a family to make that happen. And, since then, now we're at this point where, like just talking about me personally I'm not obsessed with competition at this point, right? But I look forward to the time where I can be obsessed again, because it's just the journey. This is what I was trying to get to, is that the journey is so exciting, right?
Is that your I'm making my way back to the ring type speech?
I guess so. But the journey is so I look back at when I went at just competing like crazy as a teenager, right? It was so fun and exciting. And yeah, things did go my way then. But I look at this next section of time, after we had Ryder and we went to Budapest and Ireland, and that was super fun. But the journey was fun for me, right? And so even though I went to Ireland, I got my butt kicked the first round, right? And I was out. So, what I'm trying to say is I was obsessed with just the journey too, right? Like just enjoying every step of the way of the journey as well, and being obsessed over that, not being so obsessed. of the outcome. I don't want to say that though, because like I was obsessed with the outcome, but you also have to be obsessed with the journey and understanding that comes with a whole lot of sacrifice that you're just going to you have to know how to accept, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's just it. So being able to one, find, the obsession, like actually be obsessed, not for a day, not for a week, like actually dive right in, be obsessed, be consumed with it. Understand that obsession is going to come with some sacrifices. Okay, so once you've accepted, like, I am obsessed, I want to be, the most successful entrepreneur, I want to be the best martial arts instructor, I want to be the number one athlete. Like, once you've accepted that obsession and you've adopted that into your lifestyle, then understand that there's the sacrifices. Accept the sacrifices. Yeah. Accept them for what they are. You will lose people, friends, family. You might not have to lose them, but you might have to edit. You might have to edit relationships with people because you don't want certain things clouding judgment and pulling you back, right? And then just be okay with that. When people don't get it, that's fine. They don't need to. They don't need to.
And that's what we were talking about before, is like when you make that obsession and you have to make those sacrifices and there's the external people in your life, like family and friends, that's where you need to decide, like, does that person keep a relationship with you? Like, that's for you to decide, or is that someone that you need to cut out, or do you need to edit that relationship a little bit so that you kind of put up a boundary so that you can stay obsessed with what you're trying to achieve?
Absolutely. And that's just it. Like, even for me, there's certain times where I've had to edit relationships with people in my own field, right? Like other instructors, because I was obsessed with growing in, my personal development, the school, like all of these things. And a lot of people didn't like that. Like, they didn't like changes that I made. So, every time I would call or talk or whatever, it was always negative. I don't want that. I don't want that. Like, I'm obsessed with doing this. So you either come along with me, or when we talk, it's going to have to be very, how's the weather type conversations.
Yeah, that's right. Like steering the conversation so that you can, that's what I felt like, when we're growing our business, our school, right? We had to do things, or we chose to do things a certain way. And in order for the betterment of our students, the school, everything, right? And there was, negativity, and you just want to shy away from that. It's the same thing. Like, if you're going to be the best business owner, you're going to be the best athlete, you're going to be the best whatever, doctor or whatever. Like, if you're going to be obsessed with something, there are going to be people that are negative, and so that's up to you to edit that relationship.
But that's just it. Like, I really think, like, that for me, just knowing where I've gone through and how, like, obsession is really, like, one of the number one things that you need for whatever it is you want to do. Be obsessed about it.
Getting your black belt. Be obsessed with getting your black belt.
Like, you have to be obsessed. Don't cram in 2 weeks of training for a tournament or an exam and think, well, I was pretty obsessed about it. I trained so hard. You were not obsessed, and you've got to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself when you do those things. You have to actually be realistic and take some ownership, take some accountability. I was not obsessed. I was not in it 100%. But if you are, good. Be obsessed. Like, go into it and consume yourself with it. Like, just sink your teeth into it. Like, training, coaching, entrepreneurship, whatever career you're going into, be obsessed with it. Like, consume yourself with it. Okay? And honestly, there is a payoff. Understand, you are playing a long game. You have to be able to play that long game, ride that out, but enjoy the journey and be obsessed.
Yeah. The cool thing is you get to choose your obsession, right? You get to
Yeah.
choose that path. So,
Yeah, of course, we're talking about athleticism and coaching because that's, well, hell, that's what the show's about. So that's what we're going to talk about. But it really does go for anything here.
Yeah.
You know, we actually had somebody like say, well, oh, I would love to listen to this show, but, you know, it's nothing to do with my field. Okay, well, this episode here, seriously, I don't care what you do. You want to be the best at that thing, you got to be obsessed with it, man. So
definitely.
hopefully this message here helps you guys out, and I really hope that we delivered something here for you guys, something to really think about as you step back onto the mat. Really think if you are obsessed with it. Are you obsessed with being the best? Are you obsessed with being the best instructor, coach, mentor, athlete, whatever? Are you obsessed? I really hope this helped you out. If it did, please subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment. Leave us a review. We'd love to. So whether you're listening to this on audio or you're listening or watching this on YouTube, leave us a comment down below. If you want to hear us talk about any other topics, please leave them in the comments down below. Good, bad, ugly, all of it. We'd love to hear from you guys. But we thank you guys so much to listening to this episode of Off the Mat. My name is Josh Dumoulin, and this is
Nicole Stratachek.
And we will talk to you guys all again soon.